Hi and welcome along to our latest edition of Get in the Habit podcast with myself, David Finch, and my co-host, Sue Allsworth. How are you, Sue?
I'm doing all right. Thanks, Dave. How are you?
Good. Yeah, great. Thank you.
And today with us, we have a lovely, beautiful, gentle soul who is wearing all purple if you're watching this on YouTube, which is my favourite colour. Wendy Jennings, the Coddiwomple Lady. Welcome, Wendy.
Hello, thank you for inviting me. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, welcome along.
We've already been chatting away. Dave and I always say quite often the best part of the podcast is the bit that no one gets to listen to before we actually start.
Let's do a thing with the bloopers. Do a thing with the outtakes.
Yeah, we should do that actually. Yeah, we should do all the stuff we just said. We should put that in as the podcast and forget this bit now. So
So, Wendy, I know that we have met during the last year. Mm-hmm. And you're actually not that far up of all the people I've been meeting a lot in Wales. You're actually almost a neighbour compared to almost. And so you call yourself the Coddiwomple Lady. Now, what a lovely word and what an old word. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about who you are and how did the Coddiwomple Lady be born? How was that born?
Yeah.
Well, Coddiwomple actually is Dave and I were saying before we started recording that you're right, Dave. It is an old English verb, and it means to travel in a purposeful direction towards a vague destination.
Right.
And it's something that's just it was given to me when I was traveling. I was coddiwompling in the literal sense of the word. My backstory is the Coddiwomple Lady came to be was I lost my mum and dad to cancer in 2012 very quickly, fairly suddenly. The whole journey was all between both of them was over in 9 months. Mum was diagnosed, dad was diagnosed, dad died, mum died. 9 months gone. Bit like Sue, I don't have any siblings or anything like that, and it was just like, oh, okay, what do I do now? Who's Wendy? Where's Wendy going to go? What's Wendy going to do? And what happened was when Mum was in the hospice, she'd given me a copy of this beautiful book. I'm sure everybody's heard of it, called Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert, where she goes off to Bali and Italy, and she goes to Italy first and then to India and then to whichever way around it goes, but ends up in Bali. Well, I read, the nurse that gave me this book said, just wait till everything's all over and then read it. And I read this. I really want to go to Bali. I really, really, really want to go to Bali. And then I thought, well, and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go. And I had one of those light bulb moments at 3 o'clock in the morning that said, go back to Australia. It's not quite as random as it sounds because I've got friends and family out there. And I went there for the first Christmas after Mum and Dad had died. So this was 2014 by now. But I did think, oh, thanks for that. Can't I go somewhere a bit more close to home? Australia? I mean, really? Because it was one of those, you get those 3 a.m. downloads. And anyway, I played with this idea and it just grew and grew and grew. And I thought, if I'm going to go to Australia, I can go to Bali. So I started researching how I could go to Bali by myself and feel safe. And I found this wonderful retreat. I didn't want one that shoved pipes up my backside at 3 a.m. in the morning, and I didn't want to go for 5-kilometre runs at 6 a.m. in the morning. I just wanted a bit of TLC and a bit of pampering. Anyway, I found this lovely retreat, booked it, went to Australia, and spent 6 months travelling around with my friends and family. And all that time I was keeping a blog to keep in touch with other friends and family back home. And then when I got back, I got persuaded to pull on my big girl's pants and turn it into a book. That's how the book From Cancer to Coddiwomple was born. But I didn't want it just to be a book that would just be put out there. My experience is, hey ho, line my pockets. That looks I just wasn't comfortable with that at all. So I thought, well, it's got to have a purpose. So the proceeds of the book go to the hospice that looked after us down in Sussex, because we lived down in West Sussex at the time. And it helps me raise awareness of the signs and symptoms of ovarian cancer. What the title came about was because while I was in Australia with my old school friend, she found this word Coddiwomple and she just sent it to me before I even thought about putting a book together. She just sent it to me, and she said, "When this is just so you." And I've just fallen in love with it, and I've adopted it, and yeah, it's my word now. And I get quite possessive if I see somebody on Instagram and they call themselves a Coddiwomple, I think,
Oh dear, I suppose you can't really copyright it because it's an old English word anyway.
Not at all, not at all. But
you've almost stolen it yourself. But it's like,
yeah, I have in a way.
anyone else
Yeah,
to have
I can't really.
That's great.
It's really interesting because, as you said, I'm an only child. When my parents go, then and I don't have children like yourself, so that is it. And our identity is because we, not everyone, but we both come from very loving parents, supportive parents, and so our identity is exceedingly tied in with that. And
very much
then, and I very much, and I'm aware of that for myself, and it does, the thought hasn't, not passed me by, that you think, who's soon after, and I shouldn't be thinking that because I'm all about living, obviously, but you do think about these things, don't you?
You do.
And so I can feel your pain, your anguish, your everything from way back then, because I've got that anticipatory of it coming, if that makes sense. So, and to form new habits, because all our habits are kind of around
definitely
our
have to do
parents. And there's, before we go on about that, there's talking about getting in the habit and different things. So your book is to raise awareness of ovarian cancer. So are there any habits that as women we can definitely embrace or get in habit in more of, for those what are the warning signs? How we help ourselves for?
Yeah, of course. Great question. It's the signs of ovarian symptoms. The signs and symptoms of ovarian cancer are so easy to be missed. I mean, people often think that, doctors say, "Oh, it's IBS. It's fine. You're just a bit bloated." But the signs are persistent bloating, needing to go for a wee a lot more than you would normally, feeling full very quickly, and by that I mean just after a couple of mouthfuls of a sandwich or something like that. But these symptoms need to be persistent. They don't just come and go. They are persistent, because what happens with ovarian cancer is you get the fluid. I don't know why I'm pointing to my belly, because you can't see my belly. Aren't you lucky? But there's this fluid that builds up around the organs there, and you get this. I mean, Mum, bless her. I don't know how the doctor missed this. I have no idea. But she looked about 3 months pregnant at the age of 70 plus. Hello. I didn't know anything about ovarian cancer then, which is why I now want to raise awareness, because I don't want anyone else to be in that scenario. So yeah, it is needing to go for a wee more, persistent bloating, feeling full, and you can sometimes have an upset stomach. You can have just feel lethargic because you're obviously fighting off an infection. Yeah, and there's a really lovely charity that offers wonderful support, and that's called Target Ovarian Cancer, and they are a wonderful, wonderful charity. I support them wherever I can. They're my secondary charity, if you like. But the information on their website is second to none. If you've got any queries, either as a carer or as a patient, obviously it's more for patients than it is the carers, but any questions that you have or worries that you have about somebody you love, they're at the end of the phone, they're at the end of an email, there's leaflets you can have, there's just a mine of information on that website. So yeah, I recommend checking Target Ovarian Cancer out there. They're fabulous.
Unlike so for breast cancer, we're told we've got to check our breasts for lumps and different things. Sorry, Dave, we're getting quite you're
getting girly now.
Into the girl world.
Very girly. Well. You could be an honorary girly.
Yeah. No, but men do actually get breast cancer as well.
Cancer as well, exactly. And you need to check your own. But with ovarian cancer, it's not something. obviously, is it something that is caught by our smear tests, our pap tests that we have? No. So not even making sure that you have your regular smear test. So it is literally being aware of your body, yes, and noticing the changes. And if it is persistent, as in you don't get a bit of a bank holiday day off from it. It is persistent, means persistent. Then, you know, even with whatever else is going on in the world, you need to contact your doctor.
Yourself checked.
And I think one of the habits we probably have to get into is standing up for ourselves to the doctor and saying, there is something wrong. I know my body. I can remember many years back in my 20s when we kind of knew something was wrong with me. And I can actually remember my mum saying to my GP, my daughter's got a hormonal problem. I think we need to see a specialist. And all I got was, well, let's just change a pill and see how it goes. So I never went back because my faith in doctors obviously wasn't brilliant at that point anyway, due to other issues and happenings. So you kind of, and the one thing I have learned, and that is, you know, general practitioners do a brilliant job in theory, but they are just general practitioners.
They're human.
Experts. They're human, and they are not experts in every field. And I know there's a lot of people, you know, there are all sorts of people with health issues on how we present them. Let's just put it like that, I think, in the nicest way. But if the doctor, and this is where I think sometimes, you know, do we have a continuity with our GP anymore? Because when you have a continuity, your doctor knows if you are, what kind of person you are, shall we say, and you feel up a rapport. So if you then turn around and say, actually, I'm really actually concerned about this, they'll sit up and listen. So there's so much that behind the scenes, we know the system, it's not the people that are broken, it's the system.
The system.
If it's not broken, it's just outdated, I think.
Yeah, it just needs, it does. It just needs a bit of an overhaul. There is a blood test you can ask for, but it's not conclusive. But there is a blood test that you can ask for, and that's called a CA125. I don't quite know what that is. I don't know enough about it, but that's probably the closest you can get to picking something up with blood. But that's not, it is a blood count. But as I say, that's not conclusive, and it's not something to be, if it comes back clear and you still think something's wrong, still keep going with it, because
So I was going to ask you that, Wendy. So if someone was listening now and they thought, oh, you know, I do have this and it is persistent, they do feel that they need to get checked, is the first port of call your doctor, of course, you know, go to your doctor and say, oh, I've got this wrong. And like we just said, you know, maybe a doctor will investigate further. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And it's a, excuse me, a simple blood test initially. And if that doesn't come back, or is that conclusive? Is it definitely a blood test? How does somebody know? You know what?
That's it. What happened with Mum was the symptoms were picked up by. We had a GP because what had happened was that they'd moved house. The GPs didn't know them very well, so. The first female one we had, and the fact that she was female as well, just didn't. I could go on about this for hours, but I won't. And then we swapped GPs for this particular reason, because the symptoms were missed. And he was lovely, and he said, "Right, you just need to get yourself to the hospital and probably see the gynae surgeon." No, it was first of all, they thought it was something in the abdomen. So they went off. Yeah, she went off to the hospital, and the abdominal surgeon looked at her and he said, "No, this is gynecological." So she was kept in for more tests in hospital, and that's when she was diagnosed. But it was, the thing with ovarian cancer is it's quite a slow. I say slow, but it because it's quite silent. You can get to stage 3 or 4 before you even caught. So yeah, you do need to just keep. If you you just need to keep on and on until you can get somebody at the hospital probably to check you out. But probably the GP is your first point to call. Or, as I say, go to Google ovarian cancer charities, and they give you step-by-step advice as well. So
yeah, okay.
yeah.
I just find that, you know, not just with ovarian cancer, but sometimes, you know, like we said earlier, is that sometimes you do go to the doctors, the GP is your first port of call, but it's not always picked up. And, you know, they kind of, for whatever reason, you know,
which is what happened to us.
But, you know, there's lots of different reasons that they might not look further and look deeper. But of course, that person then is only going to get worse, because it's not going to get better on its own, is it? They need some treatment, you know.
And we're not here to bash doctors in any way or shape.
No,
you just need to keep pushing. Basically, is what you just need to keep pushing.
Yeah,
that's it.
These things do happen.
Yeah.
So after, you know, after the loss of your best friends, and yeah, I know that. That's how I feel. What habits did you have to change? What was there anything that
what did I do? Yeah, I think the habit changing thing was quite a slow. I didn't realize I was picking up new habits. Do you know what I mean? I didn't set out to change my habits. I thought I basically what I did was I stood in front of the bathroom mirror and I said, look, okay, Wendy, the only person that can pick you up here is yourself. You've got to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. This has happened. You can't change it. You were prepared for it, because we did prepare ourselves really well, and move forwards. And that I would just get up every morning, and I would make my cup of tea every morning, and I would have my breakfast, and I would just do something, because I was a massage therapist at the time, but there was no energy left in the tank for that, so that wasn't a regular thing. But I made sure I just got into some sort of routine. As I said, get up, cup of tea, make breakfast, go for a walk, just do something, and so that I filled my day. To begin with, it was easy because I had paperwork to do, and I had all that sort of admin stuff. And then I went away for a while. I went to Australia for that first Christmas, and then I just poodled along for a couple of years. I just went with the flow. I just breathed. One under the other.
Not going through the motions, but similar sort of thing. You're living, but not completely connected.
Yeah, you kind of just sort of like it was almost just like going past it, not in a blur, because I've always tend to try and be in the moment anyway. But yeah, I think that first couple of, when I look back now, until I had that thing of I want to go to Bali in Australia, because that took me a while to plan. So once I had that in my head that's what I was going to do, I planned that for about a year, 18 months ahead, because I had the house to do up. I thought, if I'm going to rent my house out, or the mum and dad's house out, that's where I was living, it's got to be updated and it needs to be. So that gave me a purpose. So I would then get up in the morning and do a bit of painting. I'd do a bit of clearing out, and I'd do some decluttering. So that became quite habitual. And then the planning of the trip and everything like that. And then when I was away, I got into a habit of journaling every day, because I wanted to keep a journal of my trip. That was for the blog and whatever. And I wanted those memories. So I got into the habit of journaling every day. And I still do that 5 or 6 years down the line. I have a big wooden box down here that is full of journals. So yeah, I do that every day. I now do meditation every day. I now do yoga, a bit of yoga, even if it's just yogi breathing every day. I do that. If it's not every day, it's every other day, because if I don't do it, I feel pants.
Yeah.
So and since I decided to go to Oz, then I met my partner. So if that's given me another purpose in life, to be on with him, and it's all hunky dory, and we have a lovely life together. I have a beautiful life. I have a life that probably a lot of people think, oh, lucky cow. Because
that's nice, though.
It is, and it's people that don't know me very well, I'm sure they go, but they don't know what I had to go through to get to this point of my lovely life. You know, I do have the rental from the house to live on, and my work I do because I love it, not because I have to do it. I do it because I love it, and what else could I ask for?
So what
So
does
I still feel that there's their photos up there. I still feel that they're with me and they support me, and they give me a nudge.
Voice has been loud and clear throughout my whole life, and we have a running joke. I'm like, you know, seriously, Mum, it doesn't matter if you're here or not here. I know at certain moments it's like I'm quite eclectic and free with my dress, and I know over the years my mum's possibly struggled with my dress sense at times, and I can just hit. If I put something on, you're not going out looking like that, are you? It doesn't have to be. I mean,
my mum used to say that.
I mean, I didn't. I'm like you, Wendy. I had, you know, a moment, not because they passed, because they're still with me, luckily, but a health issue. I went traveling, and I went to Peru from reading a book, almost the Celestine Prophecy. So, similar in that sense. But even in Peru, I could, you know, I could still hear my mum thinking, seriously, are you going to go out looking like that? I mean, yes, I am. But, you know, you've got, when you've been with, you know, I've lived with my parents for the majority of my life, to be fair. I've been out and I've lived with people and that, but we've been a threesome to get me through health issues and things. So very close. And yeah, I've got my dad's bad sense of humor at times that comes in.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, don't say that out loud, because that would need a filter on it.
Oh yeah. But it used to make me laugh when people used to say, "Oh God, you're just like your father." It's like you. I've got the warped sense of humour, and I tend to laugh at the wrong moments. And I'll come out with something that's probably a bit random and a little bit inappropriate. And it's like, "Oh God, you're just like your father." And now I just think, "Yeah, I'm just like my father." Ha ha.
So Wendy, as the Coddiwomple Lady now, what do you do now? How do you, because you help other people now, don't you? So what do you do? How do you help other people? Now, how's it turned around?
It started off with when once I'd written the book, because that was a habit, getting into the habit of writing, you know, doing that every day. And once I'd done that, I published that in 2019. And then what happened, everything sort of roller coasted from there, really. People would read the book, and then they would contact me and say, "I'm struggling with this. You've been there. What suggestions do you have? What advice do you have?" And I thought, well, I can't give advice. I can give advice, but I can't tell you what to do. So that's what led me into training last year in lockdown to be a life coach, so that I could deal with this properly. And then when I was training to be a life coach, I got my qualification for life coach, and I thought, I really like this. This is fabulous. I'm really enjoying this. I want to know a bit more. So that's when I'm now doing a NLP qualification, and that's coming. I'll be finished with that by the end of this month. So coaching is hugely important, because what coaching does is it moves on from counselling. Counselling is when you're trying to come to terms with what's happened, and it tends to take you back to your past. Whereas with coaching, it's more helping people that have accepted the loss or the change, whatever, it could be anything really. But if it's a major life change, they've accepted that change, but they don't know how to move forwards. They've got this information, and they've probably got some ideas, but they don't quite know how to take it forwards or what exactly they want to do. So
they're out of the habit almost of thinking of the now and the future, because they've been in the habit of thinking of the past. And I say that with my hands up, knowing that
we will do it
until we processed that past. And as you say, it was a word that you used early on as well. Acceptance is one of the big things. I was doing a coaching class with someone yesterday, and it was literally about acceptance and the point of and asking them, what does the point of power mean to them? And that, if they haven't really explored that way, or Eckhart Tolle or anything, The Power of Now or anything, that's a bit of a mind-blowing thing, isn't it? Because it's like, well, where's your point of power? Because is it yesterday?
Yeah.
Is it tomorrow?
Yeah.
You know, when can you make that choice to accept? When can you make that choice to forgive? When can you make, and it is all about choices.
When are you prepared to let it, when are you prepared to accept it, when are you prepared to let it go? Because what it also does is it causes you to reevaluate your goals and your, not necessarily your goals, but definitely your values. Your value, you know, get a life-changing event such as a loss, your values, because the blanket's been pulled away from under your feet, basically. So everything is all gone a bit squiffy and a bit haywall, and you just think, ooh, what's going on? So yeah, I had coaching, I had counselling when mum was sick, because dad had already gone. So the hospice said, right, you do need counselling. I thought, oh, I'm all right, I'm fine. But they obviously saw something in me that maybe wasn't. But the counsellor did turn around to me and he said, Wendy, if you could take your attitude and bottle it, he said, I'd make an absolute fortune. So I was obviously doing something right. And then after I decided I wanted to do the travelling thing, and I'd signed up with one of those multi-level marketing companies selling stuff, but I had no confidence to do it. So I went for coaching, and it was amazing. It switched my mindset from thinking, and I realised I was comparing myself to others too much and all that sort of stuff. You just have to follow your own path, that kind of thing. So coaching, having had the experience of both, to me, coaching is helping others move forwards from that event that's happened to them. And I can do that. I do that through, there's a step-by-step process that I take people through, from getting from, oh, I don't know where I'm going, to thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to do that now. It's just feeling happier and healthier within themselves.
It's interesting what you say. I like that description almost of you know, because there's a place for counselling, there's a place for coaching, but they are different, and they are different to each other. And I, like yourself, I've had both, and yeah, once I sort of had come to terms with it, it was kind of like, I don't want to keep rehashing it. I don't mind talking about my past now, because I'm quite not detached from it, but I'm not
accepted it.
I'm not emotionally invested in it in that sense, you know what I mean? But it's then, I can remember a counselling session, and we've got to a bit where there was a real juicy bit, right literally on the like 59th minute of the hour, because that's when I normally decided to open up, when I knew that they were going to shut me down. So self-sabotage or what. But I can remember sort of something opening, and I realised who I needed to forgive in this situation. And it wasn't who we thought it was going to be. So I was like, so what do I need to do between now and then? Oh, no, well, I'll just see you next week. Now, luckily, I had already started doing my training, and Louise Hay, Heal Your Life, and all of this. So I would go away and put in some forgiveness letters, the practical stuff that actually is to be fair, to some degree, the most important stuff to help you move on in that issue. And luckily I had those tools, and it was then that I was sort of like, there's more to helping people. You've got to guide them. You know, we use words like acceptance, forgiveness, all of these big words, trust, surrender, but we don't actually really know what they are. And I think
it's true.
I'm just realizing that part of my journey is to help people understand those aspects. As you all know, because Wendy, we met through doing the Mind Body Soul Summits last year. Now, anyone, we're going to do a little podcast, I think, about this. Dave and I just have a quick chat about it. But I have had a changing moment in the last week or two, where I have decided to come almost off Facebook and social media for a bit. I need to remind myself what life is like, not on social media. And we get into so many different habits, don't we? And last year, and some of our habits are good. Last year, loved doing what I did, wouldn't have got to meet you guys or anything. But there's part of me that's thinking, well, I didn't focus on my business. I wanted to do a together thing. But do we use these things to avoid as well? You know, to avoid what's going on and there was some big stuff going on last year. And I think a lot of us needed to have that temporary avoidance almost to get through, survive, keep ourselves active, keep ourselves in communication with people.
Yeah.
And I found a lot of people right now, I don't know if you've noticed anything, Dave and Wendy, right now, because the doors are open up, change is happening. There's a big shift again, I think.
Yep.
There is.
Yeah, it is. Now, the thing is, I think in some respect, some people have learned a lot from the last year, and they've changed some of their habits again, and they've changed the way they are and who the people they are. Other people just can't wait, and they're just going straight back to what they did before and kind of get back to.
No, I'm joking.
Get back to their old versions of themselves.
Yeah.
You know, but I think for lots of people, it was a time of reflection, time of change, time to stop and reflect. You know, that we don't normally, you know, before the sort of lockdown situations and all that, lots of people were just on that treadmill of life.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, lots of people just stopped. Yeah. And I think then they realized, oh, wow, hang on, there's a bit more to life. There's something different. And I don't have to keep on this same old treadmill. There's a different treadmill that I could get on that's perhaps not going so fast, you know? So I think that at the moment, there seems to be two sort of versions of people around, you know, the people who have kind of seen that. And
I think some people, sorry, Sid, but I think some people are sort of like stuck between, well, I quite like where I am now, but I liked the big shiny things that I had before.
Yep.
That was safe. I know that. I know that this is still all new, and I don't know where it's going, and it's all a bit scary. So I think they're being pulled back into their old habits.
Yeah,
that's my take on it.
Don't we sometimes in those old habits? But
yeah,
I mean, exciting times. I mean, whereas a lot of people slowed down last year, I actually sped up. More than I think I've ever done, and I've been more sociable than not that I'm not a bubbly and friendly person, but I am a loner to some degree. I like my own company. I'm happy in my own company, and I can't cope with too much noise, as I call it, in my head, you know, of life. And so I'm sort of like a year behind. I'm like, okay, do you know what, actually I just want to ease back into this. But right now, because we haven't been able to go out and about and do stuff, my dad had the heart attack in the middle of last year. We weren't able to sort of celebrate that he's still alive still by being able to enjoy life in that sense. So certainly over the summer, I want to get into the habit of spending time with my parents.
Yeah.
I know I live with them, but I was busy.
Spending quality time with them.
Quality time with them. I don't like regrets, and I don't want that to be one of my regrets at some point in my life. So it's strange how life, we think we're going one way, and then it's that surrender, acceptance, and saying, actually, this is where I'm at right now. Doesn't matter what anyone else is that comparing.
Your journey, your Coddiwomple.
Yeah, it is.
Because that's why I embrace the word Coddiwomple, is because it's not just about packing a suitcase and just travelling off somewhere. To me, we all Coddiwomple. We all, because we're always, everybody's continually growing, everyone's continually moving forward, and we are heading purposefully forwards. Okay, you get the odd ones that are stuck, but whether they're stuck or not, whether they like it or not, the only way to go is forwards. So you are purposefully moving in a purposeful direction, but the destination is so vague, you don't know where that's going to be. It changes all the time. But so that's why I think everybody Coddiwomple, so hence that's why I adopted it for my business point of view as well.
Well, let's hope everybody carries on Coddiwompling.
Coddiwompling.
Yes, Coddiwompling.
Oh,
I can see why
Wendy.
it's not an everyday word now. It's so hard to say. It's for
Go
me
off
anyway.
and Coddiwomple.
Wendy, it's been
Wendy.
lovely talking to you.
Oh, it's
really
been
has.
fabulous, really
We're
good
gonna
fun.
wrap
I've
things
really
up now.
enjoyed meeting you both. Well, seeing Sue again, and obviously meeting you, David.
Yeah, it's been lovely, lovely chatting. We've been hearing your story of you collywompling all around the world, you know, and absolutely been brilliant.
So if
Thanks very
anyone
much for
wants
joining.
to get in touch with you, Wendy, how would they be able to find you?
If you go to Google, type in the Coddiwomple Lady, comes up with the website coddiwomplelady.com.
Brilliant.
Probably my website will come up as well, my Facebook page rather, and Instagram and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. I am on the social media stuff, but I'm not glued to it, but that's how to find me.
Do you know what I love about that is you've really got a unique title, and I bet you didn't have to do too much Google Analytics to be coming up right at the top of Google. You know what I mean? It's like, as soon as you type it in, bang, there you are. You know, it's like, that's so clever. I love it, Wendy.
By accident as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Coddiwomple Lady bit came out because I went to a networking meeting I was trying to get, what I've done for the back of the book is put a list of contact details in the back for people that can help with cancer and bereavement and all that kind of thing. And they pay for the privilege of being in the back of the book. So I went to networking meetings to get this, to make these contacts. And people said, oh, yeah, you're writing that book. You're the Coddiwomple Lady.
Ah, right. And that was it. It stuck. It's brilliant. And it's funny how things like you could have really sort of worked on that for weeks and weeks and weeks and not come up with it, and then all of a sudden someone just, oh, you're the Coddiwomple Lady.
Yeah, that's how people knew me, so I thought I'll stick with that then.
Yeah, it's really clever. Okay, let's wind things up for today. Thanks very much for joining us, Wendy. It's been really good.
Thank you for having me. It's been really good fun.
Yeah, insight into your life. It's lovely. Sue, as always, is a pleasure. And we'll see everyone again next week. Join us on YouTube, join us on the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll see you again next week for another chat. Get in the habit. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.